I wanted to start off by saying that we didn't put this on the invitation, but this is actually a welcome home party for my son Gentry. He just beat cancer for the second time. So yeah, we just got back after 2 years in Colorado, and so that's our little guy, and he is home sweet home, and we are pretty excited to be here. So I just wanted to start by expressing my gratitude, especially for the mentor work group that put this event together. And we worked on this since like August, and so just wanted to say thank you to Nina, Pete, Maya, Drew, and then really to Shayla, who has just gone so far and above to put this event together and to bring all of these amazing organizations together. So yeah, maybe a round of applause for especially Shayla. So I wanted to start by just giving a little bit of background on my story and then how this mentor work group kind of got initiated. I was a mental health counselor, or am still a mental health counselor, for about 12 years here in Billings, and worked primarily with teenagers, with young adults, with the population that we serve. And my world, man, it shifted dramatically when a young girl took her own life with a gun she just never should have had access to. And it was right around the birth of my daughter, and I just vividly remember holding my daughter in my arms and just receiving this news that this 16-year-old girl, her name was Olivia, had taken her own life. And it just shattered me in a way that demanded something. And it demanded of me this sense of urgency, this sense of necessity that we needed to do better as a community. I needed to do better as a father. We needed to make the world a better place for my daughter to grow up in. And so out of that, I wound up becoming the vice chair of the Suicide Prevention Coalition, and also founded my nonprofit Payload Forward, which I can tell you all about over there. But if you fast forward a little bit of time, since 2023, this also struck me very, very personally. Across the street at the Great Harvest on Poly, a young Rocky student was shot and killed. And this happened to one of Bob Wilma's kids. And so this is, I can see Great Harvest from my front porch, and once again, it was another 16-year-old with with the finger on the trigger, and it just demands that we ask questions of ourselves, like what do we do about this? Like what is happening in our community, and then how can we address this? What do we need to do to change these outcomes, these things that are, and there was kind of a spree of violence. I'm sure all of us remember what was going on, but I think it was a real call to action for Bob, and he started talking to Jennifer, and they organized all these, they brought together all these mentoring organizations because they're looking to mentorship as a mechanism for treating, what is going on in our community and around the nation. And so they've asked the batons that Nina and myself, and we formed this mentor work group. And out of that, this is kind of our first big event. And when I say first big event, that's what I really, really mean. This is the start of the conversation. This is no way, shape, or form the end of the conversation. We've got problems we've got to figure out. And we're here to have those conversations about what it is that we need to do. And so I thought pretty endlessly about like these 16-year-old kids, like what's going on. And so teenagers are in what Eric Erickson called identity versus role confusion. And so what that means is these kids they're trying on different identities. They're trying to figure out who they are. And for Erickson, if they find a healthy identity, then you move out of that stage. I was thinking about that. It's really only half right. Because there are wolves at our gate. And there are wolves that are happy to hand your child and these lost kids a packaged identity that answers those fundamental questions of who am I, why am I here, and what can I do with my life that matters. And they'll give your kid that. They'll give them a sense of family. They'll give them a sense of community, of respect. They'll teach them how to make some money. And if you're a lost kid who's been discarded, who has zero prospects, who's been abandoned by everybody that should have cared for you, like that's a pretty good offer. And so I've worked with those kids my whole life, and I empathize with those kids. And if we don't figure out ways to offer them better alternatives, that's going to be what happens. So more and more of those kids, and this tragedy that we've foreseen is going to repeat itself. And so we have to keep asking ourselves that question. That's what we're here to talk about today. And so this also is in no way, shape, or form just about gangs. It's about what our young people are going through. And so I wanted to just read some statistics from the Youth Risk Assessment Survey. So 25.7% of the youth surveyed reported seriously considering suicide, and 42.8% reported feeling so sad or hopeless that they stop doing typical activities, which is the primary diagnostic criteria for major depressive disorder. And so, you think about that. You think about what our kids are going through. Like this is what our kids are going through, and the gangs love to sweep these kids up, but there's also just this. It's the mental health for our young people, and when I read those statistics, like it just, man, like I don't know. Every single year I read those, and it's like, oh. And so we have to offer something different, right? We have to offer something better. And I just got to tour the Washington Innovation Center with Dr. Garcia and his staff, and we are doing that. And all of you are in this room because you're doing those things. And so to me, this is a really exciting conversation because that's what mentorship is. And the evidence really is in it. Mentorship is a very effective intervention for young people. And so we have to offer something, a better alternative. And what mentorship really is, it's about walking with young people, and as they answer those fundamental questions of who am I, why am I here, and what can I do with my life that matters. Because if these kids can answer those questions in positive ways, they're going to go on to lead productive, meaningful lives, and it's going to get better. And so I wanted to read, this is one of my favorite research articles, and this is, so it's from Scanlon, it's about social support. So this is from the Scanlon study. Mentorship significantly moderated the relationship between trauma and CGI, criminal justice incarceration. The findings suggest that support from outside the family system may offer important protective effects on later CGI among those who have experienced a prior traumatic experience, highlighting a potential intervention pathway for children at the highest risk of CGI. These results are supported by previous research into the positive effects of mentorship programs on children at risk for CGI. For example, Big Brothers Big Sisters mentorship programs significantly reduce drug, alcohol use, physical fights, relationship problems with family and peers, and truancy in a sample of children, many of whom experienced childhood traumas. And that research article is so interesting because all of these kids with high ACE scores, what they've been through, like neglect, abuse, exposure to drug and alcohol use, all of the ones who went on to lead healthy, productive lives, they could all do one thing. They could recall somebody who walked with them. Through their highs and lows, through their ups and downs, somebody who didn't give up on them, somebody who cared about them even when they fell down. And it was like it's this almost universal thing. Those people who made it to the other side of trauma and abuse could do that. And that's a mentor. It could be a coach, it could be a teacher, it could be a counselor, it could be a lot of different things. But that's what mentorship is walking with somebody as they navigate what as far as I can tell is the most complex world we've ever lived in. And so that's what we're here talking about. And the last thing I wanted to highlight is I clipped that quote for a reason. Because who did they cite as one of the evidence-based approaches for this type of mentorship? Big Brothers and Big Sisters, right? And we just lost them, right? And that sucks. That sucks for our community, and it sucks for our young people. And those types of things, unless we can come together, and I really believe this, and this is what Ryan and I have had so many conversations about, is that unless we can address these collective problems, these intractable problems, as a community, unless we can find ways to collaborate and connect and really solve problems together, this stuff is it's going to keep happening. And so this is the beginning of that conversation. And so this event it's the start of a much bigger, very, very important conversation. And there's really kind of three purposes here. One is we hope people pour in through the doors and sign up for mentorship opportunities, because at Bob Wilma's work, that was one of the themes that really came up is we need more mentors, right? And we need to find ways to get them to the organizations that need them the most. And so we're hoping we accomplish that today. But we're also hoping that we really initiate this conversation. We find out what the other organizations in our city who are defending our young people, who are protecting the future of our community, what we're doing, and find those areas, because there are areas we just don't know what they are, where we can collaborate and we can be stronger together. And so those are the questions that I want you to ask, and that's why we set up the bingo cards, so all of us are supposed to meet everybody else in here. And ask it, and have that thought process in the back of your mind. What can we do to solve these problems together? And then we also get to hear from some really incredible leaders in our community who are actively solving some of these problems. And Dr. Garcia, and I can't say enough about, so this is a really cool conversation I had. My dad and I were walking out of the Washington Innovation Center, and just got to meet with a young man. He was sitting there, right? And my dad initiated a conversation with him, and he had just about dropped out of high school, right? About a year and a half ago. And he just, I saw that kid, and I'm thinking, man, like this kid would have a target on his back if I was a gang recruiter, right? And instead of dropping out, which is what he absolutely was going to do, he got into this secondary program. And And he was sitting there online taking classes that he wouldn't have been able to take otherwise. And all of a sudden had a pathway back to something meaningful instead of what might have happened otherwise. So we get a chance to hear from Dr. Wilman, Jennifer Owen, Judge Souza, Dr. Garcia, and that's a privilege. So let's put our heads together and start this process, because this is the beginning. This is far from the end. And hopefully we'll get lots of folks. I would love to see us get some mentors. But let's keep having this conversation. Our mentor work group, if you have any questions about that, we meet on the first Friday of each month at 12 o'clock. And we would love to have you there. It's growing, it's dynamic, and we're also a work group, so we don't just sit around and talk. We actually go solve problems. So anyway, thank you guys all so much for being here, and for all the people who worked really hard to put this together. And thank you, Dr. Wilman, for opening up this Harry Potter-esque space. Yeah, let the magic flow, right? All right, thank you guys.